Ready?
I am ready. I got my coffee.
Good.
Good to go.
Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
How you doing, Ben?
Feeling great today.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Got a couple emails in lately that I had a conversation with a lady today. See where things go. I mean, I'm pretty hopeful. She has a friend of hers that needs some help and was trying to talk her through some different options that she has and stuff like that. So it's good. We'll see what happens. Anything new on your end?
Nothing new on my end. Trucking away, plugging away, whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
That's it. Should we get to the topic?
Yeah.
All right. I know Tom's pressed for time today. He lets me know every time, like, we got to make this quick.
Yeah.
That's when I try to drag it on.
No time to mess
Hold on, I got one
here.
more point. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Let's get right into it.
So, as you all know, Tom is a Mind Pump podcast fanboy, correct?
Yeah.
And who is Mind Pump, Tom?
Mind Pump is Adam Schaefer. Well, here, let me say it in the proper Sal DiStefano, Justin Andrews, and Adam Schaefer. I don't know if they say Adam Schaefer first or Justin Andrews, but there's actually a fourth guy, Doug. And Doug is, he's very important to the podcast, and he's not in the intro for whatever reason, but he's the one that kind of does all the audio stuff, but he's on the podcast too. You know who I'm talking about, Doug?
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's actually another guy named Andrew. So it's actually Sal, Justin, Adam, Doug, and Andrew.
I didn't know that. They need to give them credit.
They do.
All right.
Yeah. Actually, so Sal DiStefano and Doug are really the first ones to create Mind Pump. And Sal DiStefano was Doug's personal trainer years and years and years ago. And they created MAPS Anabolic, which was their first program that they would take people through, you know. And anyways, if you're listening to this, they're the number one downloaded health and fitness podcast. And definitely would want to check them out. And what I like about them is it's not all fitness related. I mean, they talk about family stuff. They talk about health and wellness, financial stuff, all kind of stuff. It's just a really good. And there's five, counting Doug and Andrew, five solid dudes. Yeah, I've been listening to them every episode for probably 5 years now.
Yeah, you could tell they're really family-oriented, polite, live their life by principles.
Yeah.
It's their principles that stick out to me.
Yeah.
And which brings us to today's topic. So I was listening to one of the episodes, and I don't catch every one of them like Tom does, but once in a while, when I see a title that I like, I'll click it and listen to it for the drive to work. And they were talking about, so they're in the fitness space, obviously, and they all started their careers as personal trainers, and I guess they are still personal trainers.
No, none of them take on clients anymore.
But that's their roots, though. Basically.
Yeah, they came up as, and they were general managers of gyms, 24-hour fitness, and at very young. They're all in their 40s now, early 40s, and they got involved in the fitness space in their 19, I think, Sal was managing his first gym at 19 or 20 years old, and kind of the same with both, or all three of them.
So they were talking about in this episode, I forget exactly what it was titled, but it was along the lines of people getting into personal training as a career and why or why not to do it, or how to do it and how to be successful, how to have longevity versus the people that they come in it and they completely fail because, well, they don't go about it the right way, so to speak. And a lot of what they were saying, actually, for me, I'm listening to this, I'm like, a lot of this correlates to the recovery field, recovery in general. And it was talking about, I want to talk about like commitment, so to speak. And they were talking about how a lot of personal trainers, or you jump online nowadays, you're going and how many ads pop up for like a lose 20 pounds in 30 days, and it's clickbait. People click it, but the reality of the situation is, as a good trainer and nutritionist, you know that there is no quick fix. You can't lose 20 pounds in 30 days in a healthy, maintainable manner. Chances are, if you lose 20 pounds in 30 days, you're going to gain it back the next 30 days after you've stopped the diet, because probably whatever you did was to an extreme to lose it, versus having a plan which goes back to their principles of like, hey, we're going to do what we know works, and we're not just going to sell people on a bunch of crap, and we're going to slowly build our clientele based off of longevity and people keeping consistency. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So talking about commitment, they were talking about like what kind of clients that they were looking for. And I think that this ties into us as well, where one of them made a statement, we're not looking for fast or slow, we're looking for yes or no. And the thing is if you think about the personal training space, for instance, in fitness, people start at all different levels, right? You could have somebody that needs to gain weight. You could have somebody that needs to lose weight. Not everybody's in the same spot. And the same thing goes for addiction. It's across the board. We have all different underlying issues, comorbidities, dual diagnosis, mental health issues, stuff along those lines, where some people, a lot of times, they'll call Tom and I on the phone and say, like, how long is your program? And I get it. Like, don't get me wrong. We do need to be realistic in the fact that people might have jobs, families, mortgages to pay, stuff along those lines. But we're not the quick fix type. We're the let's do the right plan for this person type, you know? And so essentially what I'm getting at is, you know, we do want to be realistic again, but at the same time, we're not looking for the client that says, I need this done fast, or I need this to be a year-long program. We're just looking for a yes or no. I'm going to do whatever this takes. But when they get here, they sit down with their therapist, they do their bio, we find out what's going on with them, and I'm just going to call it what it is. Some people do well with 90 days of treatment, and then they're best to go on their way. We've had clients here that did very well and needed 6 months versus the person that did 90 days. So there's no clear-cut answer, so to speak.
Well, if you think about, too, if going back to nutrition, fitness, I mean, people don't get overweight overnight. People don't gain, 50 pounds in 30 days. It's something that has taken a long time. If somebody is morbidly obese and they weigh 300 pounds, chances are they were a bigger, chunkier kid. And they kind of paved the way for that weight gain over the course of 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And I think that's why we see a lot of times there is a strong correlation, because just the same as you have 20 years of, weight gain, you're not going to solve it doing a 30-day crash diet. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of times people, I'm going to go, and I've done this myself. I've done the keto, I'm going keto and completely don't eat any carbs. Oh, I'm doing carnivore. I'm not going to eat anything but just red meat. I even had a 2.5 or 3 month stint of going vegan, and I was always looking for a quick, yeah.
You went vegan, dude?
Yeah, this is probably 2012, maybe.
Here, I think I know everything about Tom. There's certain things he hides from me.
So this is a funny story. It was when I was in, I've talked about this on the podcast.
Nothing against vegans. Let me just throw it out there. I just love red meat. So
well, what happened, I was working the overnight shift when I was working in the adolescent program. This is 10 years ago, maybe more. And there was nothing on TV or whatever, and I think I might have been on Netflix or something, because Netflix was out then. And I watched not Forks, it might have been Forks Over Knives or one of those vegan propaganda, films on Netflix, the documentary. Oh no, you know what it was? It was Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. And it was about this guy that basically went from a standard American diet to vegan and did a ton of juicing and yada, yada, yada. And the way that they create these films, as most people know, they're very well thought out. Mm-hmm. And, even inside these films, they'll have studies and stuff to back their claims and everything else. And to the average consumer or the average watcher, you're sold. And I distinctly remember, this is the answer that I've been looking for. I want to be healthy. I want to do and look at the amount of weight. So anyways, long story short, the very next day I go out and in perfect Tom fashion, I go out and, go and buy a shit ton of produce, a juicer, and the whole deal. And I did consistent vegan for about 2.5 months. And where I fell short was I went to a wedding, and this wedding had a whole buffet. And it's like I walked into the...
So relapse.
Yes, it's like I just walked into this... Like imagine the sun rays coming through the light or the windows, and me just standing there with this whole buffet of goodness. And I'm like, okay, today's just going to be one of those days where I'm going to go and eat what I want. And I did, and I got violently ill, like to the point where my stomach was in knots. And I remember there was like this sausage, like dish or something.
From vegan to sausage, dude. You were asking
dude,
for
I
it.
ate everything. And I got so sick. I remember like throwing myself into like a diabetic shock. I was shaking, sweating, the whole thing. And then, but after that, I never went vegan again. And so anyways, I completely fell off the wagon. That was the day I fell off. But anyways, what I was getting to is that, people look for these quick fixes when it comes to a problem that has it's taken years and years and years and years to develop. And it's very similar with addiction in particular, because Ben and myself, I can speak on behalf of both of us. I used addictively for a solid 10 years, probably from the time I was 16 till I got sober at 26, I used in an addictive manner. Prior that was more socialized, type. And even at 16 and stuff, I wasn't a daily drinker by that point, but I was drinking alcoholically for sure. And so to think that somebody is going to go to a 30-day program and solve 10, and that just me at 10, I got sober at 26, which is pretty young, especially for an alcoholic. Most alcoholics, true alcoholics, don't get sober until, later, because it's a very slow progressive, not so much with drug addiction, but you're not going to fix decades worth of using in 30 days, I guess that was a very, very long-winded answer. This stuff takes time. It takes time. And so we have a few things that we have written up on our handy whiteboard over there. And, one of the things that I think Ben and I, were you going to say something?
Well, yeah. What was that? Somebody working out doing deadlifts downstairs?
Probably Seth.
So, oh man, now I just lost my train of thought from all the weights banging around downstairs. I'm glad our clients are working out. Oh yeah, that's what it was. You brought up the Netflix show, and how it caught your eye, it is like perfect marketing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you watch one of those shows, you're like, oh, I want to live that lifestyle. And I don't know if people be interested in hearing about this, but I feel like talking about it anyway. Something else that they talked about on the Mind Pump episode was, and I'll translate it to us. Our clients have a better chance of staying sober because we have a program. We're not just good at marketing. You know, where they were referencing personal trainers.
I remember this.
That get into the business that are really good at marketing, but then they don't have any longevity. And so I kind of want to touch on this. I don't know what's driving me to touch on it, but I'll just throw it out there. Rock is never the first to pop up on Google.
No.
Or so, again, we're looking for, with our clients, quality. You know, a quality, committed client. Because we want our program to have, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. This isn't the word I was originally looking for, but let's call it community.
Yeah.
Community is such an important part of this. And don't get me wrong, like there's other places that have a large number of, really large number of clients. There's treatment centers out there that have over 100 beds. That's not what we do here. And those have their place, so I don't want to like poo-poo them, because at the end of the day, like, there are places out there that are able to take insurance plans that we don't take because we're looking for such a niche community, so to speak, and client, you know, someone that's committed. But there's places out there that, you know, they more or less, just to put it straightforward, play the numbers game. And they're the first ones to pop up on Google. They're really good at advertising. Generally, the program, I'll call it what it is. I don't want to make this a blanket statement, but most of them, clinically speaking, are subpar to the mom and pop style ones that are more client focused, individualized, so to speak, the smaller places.
Yeah, let me pause you there though, because I don't want to get that misconstrued. And I think that the reason that so if you search on Google drug addiction treatment, you're going to have a bunch of places pop up. You're going to have like the first 2 or 3 that are going to say sponsored. And those are pay-per-click. Those are sponsored ads. So whatever treatment center is paying to be in that spot, right? Those first 3 spots. And every time somebody clicks on that, it charges them. So generally speaking, a treatment center will set a budget of, I want to spend $1,000 a month on pay-per-click. So Google, what they do is they say, okay, we're going to put you in those first 3 spots, and each click costs you $50. So do the math. That gives you what, 500 clicks. As soon as those clicks, now out of those 500, you're banking on, you know, a certain amount of people to call you, and then you convert them into a client. Now, once you get past the first, or those first few that are Google ads, now you get into what's considered Google SEO.
Search engine optimization.
Yes, and that's the stuff that, you know, you have a social media, or like a team of people that are constantly, you know, putting up blog posts, that are updating content, that are, you know, keeping up to speed on the website, because it's pretty much, it's a free for all there. You know, Google has their methodology and how to figure out who deserves to be in those top spots. Because when anybody Googles anything, I know for myself, I don't go past the first page. So if you're not on the first page for said whatever, I'm not going to find you. So a lot of treatment centers, what they do is they spend buku dollars to get on that first page.
Buku dollars.
Yes, and to get on the pay-per-click side of things. I mean, Ben and I know treatments. I know a treatment center. Ben knows the same treatment center. They have $1 million a month budget for just online advertising. Now, where I'm going with this is, you have a online advertising budget of $1 million. You are a quantity-based treatment center. You need in this particular treatment center that I'm thinking of, and we don't need to say the name, they have, I think, around 200 to 225 beds, somewhere in and around that range. So it's constant. We need people in the door every single day to fulfill that marketing budget and to make money. Now, if you have if you have 200 beds, right, and you have 200 clients, you have X amount of therapists. Now, and this all ties into what you were saying in terms of the subpar treatment. There's no doubt in my mind that the vast majority of therapists, they're therapists because they want to give back. They like what they're doing. They want to help people. But when you get into these large facilities, it's not subpar because they don't care. It's subpar because they're treating 200 people. And you can only operate within a certain confine to be able to treat everybody. And so for us, our approach is we're going to scale it to, we're only treating 25 people. Our therapists are going to have a much smaller caseload, and they're going to be able to be a lot more attentive to each individual client. We only have to manage 25 people versus 200. And the funny thing is that we probably make the same amount of money.
So I'll throw this out there. I was saying earlier, I don't know why I want to bring this up, but it just kind of hit me because I struggle with this. Tom knows I have a bleeding heart. And, I tend to get really invested in people. And just for instance, Monday, I had a list of 5 people that ended up at a treatment center, one of the really big ones down here that they pop up number 1 in Google every time. And they'll call from these programs and say, hey, this program's subpar. How do I get over to Rock? And I have to tell them, unfortunately, from an ethical perspective for me, you're already involved in a treatment program elsewhere. I'm not going to, quote unquote, facilitate a client leaving a treatment plan with a therapist somewhere else to come over here mid-treatment. It'd be selling everybody short, the client included, because they've already. And so what I'm getting at is make sure that when you're seeking out a treatment program, and I didn't intend for the topic to go this way, a lot of people, because I'll ask them, oh, how'd you end up there? And they said, oh, it's the first one I plugged in looking for a drug rehab in Florida. It was the first one to pop up. And they clicked it and they ended up there. And, come to find out, I get those phone calls. I had to call 5 people back on Monday and say, unfortunately, you're already enrolled in their program. I won't get into crazy detail on this part, but from an insurance perspective, you've already, quote unquote, used up the majority of your benefits with that program. The insurance isn't just going to let you transfer to another program because you think you should and you want to. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. You can't call the insurance company and be like, oh, but this one will be better for me. The insurance company doesn't care. And I just want to be realistic about that. So make sure you're asking the questions, rather than clicking the first one that pops up. Make sure when you call in, you're asking the proper questions. And we have past episodes on this asking about like clinical competency, not whether they have big screen TVs and swimming pools, but how long have their therapists been employed there? What's their therapist turnover? Because the place that I'm referring to, one of the big complaints I get is that therapists only last there a couple months. So people are starting their treatment plan, then they got a new therapist, and then they got to start over, and they go through their whole treatment having multiple therapists. Things like that happen. So I just want to bring that up because tying it back to the Mind Pump podcast, the way that for us, and I'm not saying that we're the only game in town that's quality. Obviously right. I'm biased. I think we're the best. But there's other good treatment programs out there. But the point to the podcast was they are getting longevity as personal trainers because of their referrals.
Yeah.
They're people that have been through their program, families that have experienced their program, and now they're telling their friends. That's what we want for us, people that believe in what we do, so to speak, our process, our methodology. And for instance, I like bringing this up. Also, I just saw a commercial the other day. There's a major treatment center that's nationwide. It popped up. I was watching TV. I couldn't believe, I haven't seen an ad for a treatment center on TV in a long time.
Is it during a football game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it popped up. And it said something along the lines of, this was like a month or two ago that I saw it. So I won't get this exact, but it said something like 90% success rate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. See, so there's that clickbait we were talking about earlier. That's the equivalent to the 30-day, 20-pound fat loss plan. That's the equivalent of Tom watching Netflix and going vegan. Any treatment center that puts up that they have any percent success rate is full of crap.
Yeah.
We'll sit here as Rock and tell you, and Real Recovery Talk and tell you, how do you measure success? Does that mean that not one of your clients or 90% of your clients never picked up a drink or a drug again? Or how are you measuring that success?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of times when people say those sorts of things, the bar is set extremely low. Now, if I have 100 clients and I have the bar set extremely low, I could probably get 90 of those clients a completion letter. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, exactly.
Like, yeah, we have a 90% success rate that people are going to come through the program and they're going to get a completion letter at the end of the 60, 90 days, whatever the case is. But after that, we have no idea. Well, anybody can complete 30 days of a treatment center, especially if the standards that you have for them aren't very high.
Exactly.
A lot of treatment centers, it's like, we don't necessarily care what happens. Just come in, sit down, sign this paper, pee in this cup, go do your individual session, so on and so forth. You're going to skate through this program. You're not going to really be challenged too much. And at the end, we're going to give you a completion letter. There's your completion. Versus a treatment center that says, okay, we're going to challenge you day in and day out. We're going to call you out on your shit, you know, and we're going to just overall challenge you, make you extremely uncomfortable, because that's reality, what this takes. And then at the end, we're going to give you a completion letter. But it's comparing apples to oranges. Who do you think, you know, somebody that completes our program is in a much different situation scenario in terms of likelihood of long-term sustainable sobriety than they are if they came out of a program that doesn't care and they hinge on the 90% success rate. And Mind Pump was talking about this a little bit, and how they were referring to this is they would have their marketing team would come to them and say, hey, you should tailor some of the programs and stuff that y'all have and more market them towards females. Because if you market them towards females, you'll sell more. And they're like, but we don't want to do that because the programs that are the fitness programs that are marketed towards females are bullshit. I mean, the human body is the human body.
Mm-hmm.
You, with strength and exercise and fitness, it's a very basic thing. And so when you see female marketed fitness programs, it's, you know, high reps, super low weight, like high intensity, yoga, Pilates, this, that, and the other thing. And they're like, we're not that. What we are is we're a strength-based people. We believe that working out, weight training, you know, doing those sorts of things is equal across the board, and you just scale it according to your body type, you know, or your weight and stuff like that. And obviously, you know, but they weren't marketing towards females specifically. And I think with us, it's kind of the same thing as like, we're not going to just tell you that just come on in Because a lot of I tell people all the time, if you can't stay sober with your cell phone in your pocket, you're not the right place. We're not the right place for you.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't legit want to do this, we're not the right place for you.
Here's an easy example. There are treatment centers locally. So once in a while, I'll go to these, what are they called? Business development, coffee, luncheons, where you meet other treatment centers, because we do need resources as well. There's people that we can't take, and I need to be familiar with the local resources. Like if somebody has mental health that's really high acuity, I need to know people locally where I can comfortably send, like somebody who's, say, having active hallucinations, somebody that we can't take here. But where was I going with this?
Not sure. You were clearing your throat.
Yeah, I know that really messed me up.
Well, I mean, you can think of it, and I'll keep going off on my tangent. Again,
that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Couples.
Cut me off.
So I'll show up to these business development meetings. Sorry. These business development, it hit me, dude. I'll show up to these business development meetings, and there'll be a treatment center. We specialize in couples. Well, Tom and I know darn well the likelihood that a couple showing up to treatment and doing treatment together has a very low likelihood of success. In fact, in my opinion, probably zero. Yet they're going out to market to those couples,
right,
knowing it doesn't work because they want a client.
How about the treatment center? We recently had somebody in that they take. I'm hesitant to bring this up, but whatever. They take. Not only do they take couples, they take pregnant people. They do Suboxone maintenance, LGBTQ, and there was another one. So any like niche, because there's some treatment centers, they're like, yes, we take couples, and generally that's their population is couples. Suboxone maintenance or medically assisted treatment people, that's kind of its own niche, and they take medically assisted treatment people. LGBTQ, generally speaking, it's an LGBTQ program, and they go there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rather than finding a specific niche, they just say, screw it, bring them all in.
Bring them all.
And now, so you got like pregnant people that are with MAT people, that are with couples, that are with LGBTQ. It's like, what? I couldn't imagine sending a loved one to a place like that.
It goes back to operating on principles.
And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. I don't want to be canceled or anything like that, which, I mean, I don't care. Cancel. There's not a whole lot to cancel.
For instance, like the LGBTQ, there are specific programs locally that are very good at treating that population. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. We know one in West Palm. That is all they treat. They've gotten good at it, and that is them. That's their identity. They don't pretend to be anything else. That's admirable.
And they understand when they get referrals from other treatment centers, because some treatment centers just don't know how to handle it, and so they'll say, hey, go to the place is called Inspire. It's in West Palm Beach. They've been around for years, and we know that we've known them for a long time. Good program. And they do good work with the people that, so I would feel a lot more comfortable, hey, got a good place for you to go. Mm-hmm. We don't want to just take somebody. And a lot of times places do this. They, rather than even asking any questions, all they're going to do is look at the insurance policy, and based off of the insurance policy, you can come in or you can't come in. Before even asking any questions.
You have an insurance policy and a pulse. Mm-hmm. They'll take you. And that's the other thing that I want to touch on, too, is going back to like our principles. Tom and I just had this last week. We sat down and did an intervention with the family. And by the end of the intervention, all that the family was willing to have a discussion about, and the potential client themselves, was doing outpatient program. Well, can you just come here for outpatient programming? And at the end of the day, Tom and I, we got the whole background. There's medical issues as a result of the use. We know that outpatient isn't going to work. And we sat this family and this individual down face to face and looked them in the eye and said, there's 25 treatment centers around in this local area that you call them, they will let you do outpatient. Mm-hmm. We are not going to do that because we know it's not going to work in your situation. We can take your insurance and bill it knowing it's not going to work, just like those fad diets we were talking about. You're going to end up right back here. So basically it kind of ended like when you're ready to do this, going back to the fast or slow, yes or no, they wanted the fast route. We, as the professionals, saw it as we'd rather tell this person, no, we're not going to help you today because you're not willing to do what it actually takes. And I don't ever want to put myself in a position where I'm doing something unethically that I don't believe in, giving somebody a plan that I know is going to fail just to make a buck.
Yeah, and to prove a point. Like, we don't have anything to prove.
No.
And the unfortunate thing is this gentleman was 24 years old, drinking to the point of jaundice, yellow eyes, yellow, green tint in his skin, and hospitalized for pancreatitis. And he wasn't willing to quit his job, essentially, is what it boiled down to. He didn't want to lose his job, and so therefore, he wanted to do more of an outpatient type thing. And Ben and I are like, no. There's places out there that'll. And then it's funny, you and him went out for something, and the mom was begging me when you guys left to do something. I don't know. I think you were giving him a tour. Maybe?
Yeah, I gave him a tour and just kind of walked him around and just being friendly with them.
Yeah, and the mom was like, "Are you sure we can't?" And I'm like, "You don't understand. I would be wasting your time. You would be wasting my time, and we would be wasting the insurance policies or the insurance's money, And there's places out there, and I told her, I said, there's places out there that will. I'm not going to give you names of those places because I don't believe in that approach. So if that's something that you want to do, seek it out. I can't sign off on that because I'm looking, and I told her, I said, I'm looking at a 24-year-old young man that is in the alcoholic state of a 60-year-old. Like, he's 24 years old. He has jaundice. He is in late stage alcoholism. And between you and him, you guys are more worried about his job than you are his sobriety. And I'm not going to play a part in that. And I said, honestly, Mom, you shouldn't play a part in it either. He's living underneath your roof. Remember, because she was talking about all that, like she was cooking for him, doing all this stuff. And I'm like, golly, this kid legit has no reason to get sober. And health consequences aren't doing it for him because he was hospitalized multiple times for alcohol-related illness. And now he's sitting in front of us. And I've been working with this family for almost 6 months. And this was the first time that they were actually coming in here for a face-to-face meeting. And I said, we spoke 6 months ago, and it's only getting worse. So what do you think is going to happen? So now, from Ben and I's perspective, unfortunately, we have to just sit back and wait, and we're not going to be the enablers.
No, exactly.
And
it's coming to, we're getting to a place right now there's a culture, this Zoom culture, ever since COVID came along. And I'm just going to call it what it is. Are there probably some appropriate cases? Yes. But I'm just not a fan of anybody trying to treat their addiction through Zoom. It is, in my opinion, don't get me wrong, there's probably some cases sprinkled in there, few and far between, where I'd say, yes, that's appropriate. But nowadays, some of these horror stories I hear from our clients that have attempted to do this, your doctors prescribing benzodiazepines over a Zoom session That's 10 minutes so that somebody can detox themselves off of alcohol. Yeah. Then they have benzos. Then they're drinking with the benzos on top of it. So basically the doctor just gave them some drugs to go with their alcoholism. Or I see all these odd ads, same day Suboxone, pick up, jump on this website. And I'm like, dude, the same thing with ketamine. Like... Dude, I'm going to call... Let me bring this up since you brought up Netflix. I'll tie it into this. I'm not going to get into my conspiracy theory stuff, but a lot of people have watched this new show, Painkiller, that came out. Did you see it?
No.
It's about Purdue Pharma and how Oxycontin got marketed and how all the doctors were giving out Oxycontin and getting kickbacks and, it just, the way that it was done was extremely unethical. It was a complete lie.
Wait, the show was a lie?
No, the show was the truth. About what happened and how Oxycontin and Purdue Pharma fooled everybody.
Yeah.
But my point is, and don't get me wrong, like medicine's important. Thank God for pharmaceuticals and medicines. They've cured all kinds of diseases.
Sure.
Protect people from malaria and whatever, they're
needed.
It's done a lot of good.
Yeah.
But I don't want to tell people, hey, just let this blow in the wind. Like, you also need to be cautious. Like, there are people, doctors included, that are human beings that see an opportunity. Hey, man, I'm a doctor. I can legally prescribe Suboxone. Let me just set up an online practice. This is easy money. Let me charge $300 a pop in cash. Run your credit card. You don't need insurance. Boom, 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 boom. I can do 10 of those cases a day, 10 minutes each, talking less than 2 hours of work, and I've made a really good amount of cash for the day. Like, that is literally happening, and it's being driven. They're legal drug dealers. I'm just going to call it what it is. Now, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with the Suboxone thing. We've talked about this a million times on the podcast. It has its appropriate times and uses, but the way that this culture of let's do everything over Zoom has happened is I'm not a fan.
No, there's something to be said with human connection.
It's more clickbait.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's more fad diet.
Well, there's no accountability. If I know I have to physically go somewhere and show my face to a person, there's accountability there. Zoom stuff, and I'm not against it. I think that it's a good supplemental, just
yes.
to say, and tying it back to health and fitness, supplements are good to have. But you should try and get the bulk of your nutritional needs from food. And then if you're deficient in something, vitamin D or vitamin E or whatever, take a supplement. You're the bulk of your recovery, whether you're an addict yourself or you're a loved one of an addict, the bulk of your recovery should be face-to-face, because there's something to be said about human connection. And then the Zoom stuff and, that it should be more of a supplemental type thing. And I know there's somebody right now listening that I just had a conversation with her about this. And so her ears are going to peak up because she's a Zoomer. That's what I'm going to call it. A Zoom. Yeah. Nothing against it. I think that it's good, but try not to make the bulk of that. Like, go to your Al-Anon meetings or go to your AA meetings, because there's community there. You can't go out to coffee with somebody on a Zoom call. You can't go out to dinner with your sober supports on a Zoom call, unless you all just get your takeout and you sit there in front of your screens and eat your takeout with one another, which is pretty weird.
That's a really good analogy.
Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get it twisted. Like, again, I want to make it very clear. Like, I believe that it has its purpose, its place, but I think it's being used as a go-to cure-all right off the bat.
Well, COVID really put that into play.
It did.
Once COVID hit, it was like, oh my God, you can't be around people. And then poof, Zoom all over the place. And we're just like, oh my God. And what it did was it really, it scared the shit out of people. One, to the point of like, I can't be around you unless you're wearing a mask, you're vaccinated, or whatever the case is. And here we are 3 years later. And not that people are still living in fear, although some are. It's turned into a convenience thing. It's convenient. Why do I need to go to a Al-Anon meeting or an AA meeting or an NA meeting where I have to get up? I got to change. I got to put my shoes on. I got to go into my car. I got to drive there. I got to see people, yada, yada, yada. When I could just sit in my chair and put up my computer screen, sitting there in my underwear, and I'm there.
Same goes with therapists. I've literally talked to therapists who used to do private practice in offices and stuff, who have point blank told me to my face, this is a pretty regular thing. Oh, I no longer have an office.
Yeah.
I said, why pay the rent? Why make the drive? I can generally make about 70%, charge 70%. That's what the insurance company pays, 70% of what they would for an in-person. But if you're eliminating paying rent on an office, a drive for gas, all that stuff, like they're like, I can get more clients in.
Yeah.
I can it's also for them convenient, but it's less
saving
quality care.
Saving them a ton of money.
Yeah.
For sure.
So there's convenience on both sides. And again, it could be a positive if it's supplemented, like Tom said, but it also could be a negative if it keeps you doing what you actually need to be doing.
My therapist is all Zoom now, and the writing was on the wall. You know, kind of COVID kickstarted it, you know, kind of forced everybody into that. And then he was simultaneously looking for other office space, and none really came available. And I think he just realized, well, I'm not losing any clients based off of not having office space, so I'm just going to stay. And in his defense, I think it's a good model for him because he has such an established business at this point.
But that's appropriate too. Like you're not a client who's completely you're not in crisis.
Right. Yeah.
What you're doing is supplemental just to improve the quality of your life. Yeah. You already have a great life.
Yeah.
You're just trying to be even healthier and more aware. So again, like that's an appropriate application of this. You know, it's funny you brought up COVID, or one of us brought up COVID. I remember when COVID happened, all these treatment centers like shut down. Do you recall that all these places shut down out of fear of getting COVID cases?
Yeah.
I don't know if Rock's protected or what the deal is there, spirit of the universe, God, whatever you want to call it.
I was the first one to get it.
And what was that, a year and a half in?
About a year, because it came, what was the start of it? February
March
of
2020.
Yeah, and I ended
when
up,
it really like became a thing.
I got it the following year in February or March.
Out of all of our clients,
yeah,
and we had a full census all the way through COVID. People didn't all of a sudden not need drug treatment, but in fact, they needed it more.
Yeah.
But that was the irony behind the whole thing. I kind of chuckle now, like everyone was in fear. And Tom was our first recorded case at Rock.
Yep.
Clients or staff. And it was literally a year before that happened.
And I didn't even know, like I the only reason I found out I had it was because, I felt sick, and that was like the thing to do, I guess. I'm like, well, I guess I'm supposed to go get tested. Yeah. And, you know, Jim, the other guy here, he's, you know, older.
He's wise.
He's wise. He's in his 70s, and it was more out of protection of him. And, you know, and we had people here that were kind of like, you know, not super crazy about a potential COVID case walking into the office. But anyways, so I went and got tested, and the first time I got tested, it was negative. I'm like, oh, I'm negative. Well, then And then the following day I felt okay. But then the following day I was on my way into the office and my eyes were like, I just didn't feel good. And I drove to the same place, paid the same $100, got tested again, boom, positive. I'm like, dang, I am positive. All right, well, let's find out what this is all about. And so I called and, hey, got COVID, and everybody's like, oh no, wiping down all the stuff. And, oh my gosh, I was with you and you were with so-and-so. And then I had the freaking COVID hotline police calling me, like asking me a bunch of questions. Like, who have you been in?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
who have you been in contact with? And all these questions. And I said, I'm not telling you all this stuff. Like, what? Why? And so I end up, but I will say this: like, it was a son of a bitch. It was kind of one of those things where I felt okay for 2 days, and then wham, got hit again. Like, felt like crap. Would feel okay for a day or two, and then felt like complete crap. And I don't think I came into the office for almost 2 weeks, because I think at the time that was like, you had to quarantine or whatever. And I didn't quarantine. My I have 3 kids and stuff. My wife was like, screw that. If you're getting it, we're all getting it. And we all got it,
Yeah, I just remember what crazy times reflecting back.
Oh,
man. I remember there was 2 calls in particular, and they were the same thing, so I won't tell both. But I got a call from a mom that her son was shooting fentanyl in the basement, overdosed
New York?
multiple times. It was somewhere in the Northeast. I forget where. Multiple times overdosed in the basement. And mom's like, he needs treatment so bad. And then I'm like, all right, let's get him a plane ticket. Get him here. Oh, but I don't want to put him on a plane. He might get COVID. I'm just like, fentanyl is going to kill your kid long before COVID is at this rate. Like, and just some of the insanity that went on. It's, it
was comical.
Looking back, I was like, wow. It was interesting times, man. Definitely. It was interesting.
All right. Well, Ben, I think that's about it. I don't know what the hell we just talked about, but it was fun.
Yeah, I think it actually, from my perspective, I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking about this today.
Yeah, me too. It's hot in here.
Yeah, it's real hot in here.
All right.
Plus, I had this coffee.
Yeah. So your bodybuilding show got postponed.
Yeah. Not everything goes to plan.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sometimes you got to change course.
Lorenzo was asking about you.
Oh, was he?
Yep.
Dang, I forgot to call him back again.
He texted me and said, "Hey, how's the prep for your bodybuilding show going?" I'm like, "That ain't me, dude. That's Ben."
Yeah, I meant to. He sent me a text message that he left me a voicemail. I totally forgot till you just brought it up, saying thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, he texted me that too. He likes that. He likes getting shout out.
Man, dude, sometimes I just can't keep up with everybody. I feel bad.
I know, and that's unlike you. For me, it's not. I don't really. Listen, if I don't answer, if somebody texts me and I don't answer within 5 minutes, forget it. Chances are I won't text you back. And it's not that I'm ignoring or whatever. It's a severe character defect of mine, I suppose. So any of you that have ever reached out or text or whatever, and I haven't gotten back to you, just text me again, and hopefully I get on it.
See, I'm the opposite, man.
Yeah.
I get back to too many people where I start getting in trouble with the home life.
Yeah, you spread yourself too thin.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Right, Ben?
Do reps, work steps.
That is it. We will see y'all later.